What if an ancient geometric figure holds the key to understanding the universe's deepest secrets? Metatron's cube, a complex structure of 13 interconnected circles, has fascinated mystics and scientists for centuries. In this video, we take you on a journey through time and space, from ancient Egypt to modern spirituality, to uncover how this sacred geometry may be the key to unlocking Florence's secret and the hidden structures of the universe. Throughout history, certain cities have carried secrets that transcend time and space. Florence, or Florence in Latin, is one such city. In the heart of Tuscany, it stands as an architectural masterpiece, renowned for its art treasures and as the cradle of the Renaissance. But behind its facades lies something far more mysterious: a code, a structure, a secret that has survived wars, popes, and empires, and is only now beginning to be revealed through the language of geometry. When one observes the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore, with its majestic dome constructed by Filippo Brunelleschi, it appears as a symbol of human triumph and engineering. But for those who know where to look, the building is far more than that. It is a focal point in a hidden network of symbols, lines, and energy flows. Something encoded into the very structure of the city. And at the center of this secret, we find a name: Metatron. Metatron's cube, a name that echoes ancient mysticism and esoteric wisdom, is not just a geometric figure. It is a key diagram representing the building blocks of creation. Within its structure lie all 5 Platonic solids, the same forms Plato believed to be the foundation of all existence. But why do we find patterns resembling Metatron's cube woven into the architecture and art of Florence? And what were the great masters really trying to tell us? In Renaissance Florence, where science and art went hand in hand, it wasn't uncommon for artists and architects to also be mystics and alchemists. Leonardo da Vinci, himself a resident of the city, often used sacred proportions and hidden geometry in his works. Could it be that he, among many others, knew of this ancient form and its power? Could the cube, through its lines and connections, be a portal, a bridge, between the human and the divine? Legend says that Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, gave a set of sacred geometric forms to humanity. Forms that could connect us to the deeper laws of the universe. Over time, this knowledge was passed down through secret brotherhoods, encoded in symbols and artworks only the initiated could understand. From ancient Egypt to esoteric Europe, this wisdom has lived in the shadows, waiting for someone with the right eyes to bring it back to life. One of these codes points to Metatron's cube, a shape that contains all of creation. In esoteric understanding, the cube forms a map of dimensions and levels of consciousness, a model for how energy moves and shapes reality. By understanding its pattern, one may understand how the universe organizes itself. This is what many mystics believe lies hidden in the structure of Florence, a city built not only of stone and mortar, but with intention and insight into the unseen. Florence's secret is not just a story about a city. It is a story of humanity's forgotten connection to the divine. And it is through Metatron's cube that we may unlock this connection once again. But to understand how all this fits together, we must first understand the cube itself. What exactly is it? How was it used? And why was it hidden in the city's architecture? In the next chapter, we will delve deeper into the mysteries of geometry and come face to face with this powerful symbol, Metatron, a name that vibrates through ancient texts, Kabbalistic writings, and esoteric traditions. He is often described as a celestial scribe, God's right hand, the keeper of knowledge, and the archivist of all heavenly mysteries. But what does this have to do with a cube? And how can a geometric figure be the key to creation itself? Metatron's cube is more than just a symbol. It is a mirror of the structural DNA of the universe. Composed of 13 circles connected by lines, it forms a shape that contains all 5 Platonic solids. The tetrahedron, hexahedron, cube, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron. These solids are unique because they are the only three-dimensional shapes where all sides, angles, and edges are equal. A perfection that in ancient philosophy was seen as the architecture of the cosmos. When studying Metatron's cube closely, one sees how these forms are woven into each other, naturally formed from the fundamental structure. It's as if the universe's building blocks are hidden right in front of our eyes, only understandable to those who can read the silent language of geometry. But this figure is not only beautiful, it carries profound meaning. In Kabbalistic tradition, it is said that Metatron was the prophet Enoch, who was taken up to heaven and transformed into an archangel, one of the very few humans ever granted such an honor. As Metatron, he was tasked with recording all human and cosmic activity. The cube bearing his name is said to be a map of the energy field surrounding all life, a pattern that connects the physical with the spiritual. In meditation, the cube is used as a tool for protection and insight. By visualizing its form and mentally moving through its structure, one is said to be able to cleanse their energy field, uncover truths, and access higher consciousness. Some even experience journeys through dimensions, guided by the cube's lines, like a kind of cosmic GPS. What makes Metatron's cube especially relevant to our exploration of Florence's secret is how its structure is reflected in the city's architecture and symbolism. Many of the city's ancient buildings contain rose windows, mosaics, and tile floors that, upon closer inspection, reveal the same proportions and symmetries. It's as if the city's layout was built according to principles drawn directly from this sacred form. But this raises new questions. Who had knowledge of Metatron's cube in the Middle Ages? How was this integrated into urban planning? And why did they choose to hide it in plain sight, encoded into art and masonry? The answer lies in the connection between secret brotherhoods, artists, and mystics, groups that sought to preserve ancient wisdom through the ages. Their understanding of geometry was not merely practical, but spiritual. They believed that certain shapes and proportions could create harmony between the earthly and the divine. And at the heart of this belief was Metatron's cube. We are now approaching the core of the mystery. In the next chapter, we will connect the threads between this sacred figure and the hidden codes of Florence, and perhaps discover how this ancient form can give us access to insights we have never seen before. Florence, the birthplace of the Renaissance, hides more than just masterpieces and magnificent cathedrals. When the city is observed from above, especially through maps drawn before modern urbanization took over, a strange pattern begins to emerge. Lines, axes, and proportions. The city's layout is no accident. It bears the mark of intention, mathematical harmony, and symbolic geometry. And at the center of this hidden map, we find once again Metatron's cube. How can a geometric figure, seemingly esoteric and distant, have anything to do with a medieval European city? The answer begins with the architects and thinkers behind the city's most famous structures. Filippo Brunelleschi, the architect of the dome of Santa Maria del Fiore, was not only an engineer, he was also deeply interested in proportion, mathematics, and what we would today call sacred geometry. The same was true of many of his contemporaries. In an age when art and science were inseparable, and mysticism and logic were seen as two sides of the same coin, the city was planned with deep insight into the structural rhythms of the universe. Rose windows in churches, floor mosaics, even the placement of important buildings such as the town hall, the baptistery, and the main cathedral, all point to a deeper order. When lines are drawn between these points, shapes emerge that reflect Metatron's cube with astonishing accuracy. But why Metatron's cube? Because it represents the perfect balance point between chaos and order, the structure of creation. And in a Europe marked by chaos, war, and spiritual confusion, mystics sought ways to restore the connection to the divine. by building cities and structures according to such sacred patterns, it was believed that one could attract higher frequencies, harmony, and wisdom. This idea was nourished by Hermetic philosophy, which in turn was inspired by ancient Egyptian teachings, many attributed to Thoth. According to this tradition, the universe is built according to principles that can be understood through geometry. As above, so below, says the Hermetic law. What applies in the macrocosm also applies in the microcosm. And Metatron's cube, with its connection to both the heavenly and the material, becomes the symbol of this universal balance. In Florence, there are many traces of this. In the floor plan of the Uffizi Gallery, in the symbols on the Ponte Vecchio, even in the way certain fountains and gardens are laid out, all bear signs of knowledge far deeper than what one learns in history books. These are not coincidences. They are messages encoded in stone and water, meant to speak to the few who understand. And perhaps it was also a warning. For hiding something so powerful in the city's structure also means that the knowledge can be misused. Therefore, it was hidden, not destroyed, but concealed, in the hope that one day, when humanity was ready again, we would find the key and understand. We have now seen how Metatron's cube is present not only in theory, but in practice, in a real city. Next time, we will look at how this connection survived the ravages of time, and which forces ensured that this wisdom did not die out, but was preserved for future generations. Before Florence became the esoteric heart of Europe, the knowledge had to travel a long road, a road that began in the desert sands among obelisks, temples, and papyrus scrolls in ancient Egypt. To understand why Metatron's cube would appear at the heart of the Italian Renaissance, we must return to one of history's most enigmatic civilizations, Kemet, the Black Land, as the Egyptians called their home. Here, thousands of years before Christ, architecture and art did not exist separate from spirituality. Temples were built according to the movement of the stars, and proportions were calculated with mathematical formulas we still don't fully understand. In the midst of this cosmic architecture, we find Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, who, according to Egyptian mythology, recorded the laws of the universe on emerald tablets and brought the sacred language of geometry to mankind. It is said that Thoth delivered a set of forms, among them the flower of life and the seed that would become Metatron's cube. These symbols were considered sacred keys to creation and were not taught to the masses. They were guarded by priests, mystery schools, and initiates who understood the dangers of opening such doors without insight. When Egypt's glory faded and the Greek sages took up the torch, we found many of these ideas again in the works of Plato, Pythagoras, and later, Plotinus. Plato spoke of the 5 perfect solids, which we today know as the Platonic solids, and saw them as the fundamental structures of the elements: earth, fire, air, water, and ether. These forms, the very soul of Metatron's cube, were once again woven into the fabric of philosophy and art. But the knowledge continued its journey. It took the route through Alexandria, where Greek philosophy and Egyptian mysticism merged into Hermetic wisdom. Here arose the Corpus Hermeticum, a collection of texts that would later form the basis of much of Europe's esoteric thought. These texts, translated into Latin during the Middle Ages, became treasure troves for the early Renaissance philosophers, among them Marsilio Ficino and Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, who in Florence sought to unite faith, philosophy, and magic. So how did Metatron's cube find expression in Renaissance Florence? The answer lies partly in the Freemasons and Rosicrucian orders, which had roots in this very Hermetic tradition. These secret societies, often made up of artists, architects, and thinkers, carried a deep understanding of sacred geometry and hidden symbols. Through their work, these ideas were encoded into buildings, art, and landscapes. Take, for example, the famous Medici Chapel. Not only is it a burial site for one of Europe's most powerful families, but it is also a symbolic chamber, built according to proportions that match the geometric principles found in Metatron's cube. Its inner structure reveals proportions that are repeated in the flower of life and other esoteric symbols. Another example is the Palazzo Vecchio, the city's town hall, which houses rooms and halls decorated with symbols drawn from astrology, alchemy, and geometry. In the ceiling paintings and mosaics, hidden signs and patterns point to a higher order, an order the initiates wanted to protect, but also preserve for the future. And thus, through generations of mystics, mathematicians, and artists, the geometric legacy survived. It was never written in textbooks, never taught in regular schools, but it lived in stone, in glass, in proportions and lines. And it waited for someone, perhaps you, perhaps us, to begin seeing the pattern again. In the next chapter, we will take this pattern further, into our own time. For Metatron's cube is not just a historical phenomenon, it is still alive. In modern spirituality, it has been given new life, and its power and mysteries continue to fascinate and transform those who dare to delve into its center. In our time, where information flows faster than ever, and old dogmas are being challenged by new science and experience, Metatron's cube has taken on a new meaning. No longer limited to secret societies or esoteric traditions, this ancient form has found its way into modern spirituality. And for many, it has become a powerful tool for personal transformation, healing, and spiritual awakening. In alternative communities and spiritual circles around the world, Metatron's cube is now used in meditation, energy work, and self-development. You'll find it in yoga studios, as tattoos, on the walls of holistic clinics, and as a central symbol in guides to energy work. But why this sudden fascination with a complex geometric figure? It begins with a deep, intuitive sense that the universe has a hidden order. Many people experience that they are more than just body and mind, that they are part of a larger pattern, a cosmic web of energy. Metatron's cube serves as a bridge to this understanding. In its form, it shows how everything is connected, how energies flow in balance, and how we ourselves are geometric beings in constant movement with the rhythm of the universe. In energy work, Metatron's cube is often used to cleanse the aura. Practitioners visualize the cube rotating around their body, pulling out negative vibrations and bringing balance to the chakra system. It is said to function as a protective shield against low-frequency energies and psychic noise, a kind of sacred armor made of light and intention. Some go even deeper, claiming that the cube can be used to activate higher states of consciousness. In this understanding, each circle and line is a path to understanding parts of the self and the universe, a kind of three-dimensional mandala that leads the mind away from the linear and into the infinite. Through contemplation and studies of the figure's symmetry and proportions, it is claimed that one can gain insight into the structure of the universe, the nature of time, and the soul's journey. One of the most fascinating modern interpretations comes from the metaphysical frontier of quantum physics. Some scientists and thinkers speculate that the universe's smallest building blocks, such as strings in string theory, have vibrational patterns that resemble the structures of Metatron's cube. This opens up an incredible thought, that the ancient symbol may not only be a spiritual map, but also an accurate representation of cosmic reality. Artists and creators have also embraced the cube. They use it as a basis for visual meditations, digital animations, and architectural concepts. In art, it has become an expression of the sublime, the divine, and the eternal. And in this creative rebirth, we see how Metatron's cube continues to inspire human insight, just as it did in Renaissance Florence and in the temples of the Nile. It's as if Metatron himself, through this form, is whispering to our time, remember who you are, remember where you come from, and remember the power that lies in the language of geometry. Next time, we will see how this geometric power builds a bridge between science and spirituality, and how modern discoveries are actually beginning to approach what mystics have known for millennia. In a world increasingly shaped by technology and scientific precision, one might think that spirituality and sacred geometry would be pushed aside as old myths. But the opposite is happening. At the intersection of quantum physics, cosmology, and neuroscience, we see a startling pattern. What was once seen as spiritual symbolism has parallels in the deepest structures of nature, and Metatron's cube stands at the center of this connection. Science has always sought a theory of everything, a unification of the four fundamental forces that can explain the universe's existence from the Big Bang to microscopic particles. In this quest, it has been revealed that the universe appears to follow mathematical laws that are not only functional, they are beautiful, they are harmonious, and often geometric. One of the most remarkable findings comes from studies of fractals and self-similarity. Nature builds itself through repeating patterns, from galaxies to flowers, from blood vessels to tree branches. These patterns reflect the same principles found in Metatron's cube: symmetry, balance, and expansion from a central point. The cube shape itself carries a fractal principle, where each part contains the whole. In quantum physics, it has been discovered that particles are not really things, but rather probability fields that vibrate in certain patterns. These vibrations, as described by string theory, may have geometric base forms. Some speculate that the universe's energy field may be structured like a geometric grid, similar to the structures seen in Metatron's cube. Perhaps this ancient symbol not only shows the structure of spirit, but also of matter. Neuroscience also lends its support. Research on brain function has shown that the human mind is extremely sensitive to patterns and symmetry. In fact, the brain reacts positively and harmoniously when exposed to sacred proportions, such as the golden ratio or figures related to the flower of life and Metatron's cube. This has given rise to an entire field of research into healing, architecture, and design. Even more astonishing are experiments in sound and frequency, known as cymatics. When sound frequencies are applied to sand or liquid, geometric patterns form, and many of these suspiciously resemble forms we know from sacred geometry. Here we see directly how vibration creates form, just as ancient myths claimed when they described how the universe was created with the word or sound. All of this points to one thing: that the universe may not be random, but built on a deeper underlying order, an order that can be understood through geometry. And at the center of this understanding stands Metatron's cube, as a map, a key, and a reflection of the divine structure that holds everything together. Next time, we'll make this completely practical. How can you use Metatron's cube in your own life? How can this ancient form help you create balance, protect yourself from negative energy, and open the doors to a deeper understanding of yourself and the universe? Metatron's cube is not just a symbol for contemplation or a historical artifact. It is a living tool accessible to anyone who wants to bring order, clarity, and spiritual depth into their daily life. Its power lies not only in its beauty, but in its function as a mirror of consciousness, a protector against disharmony, and a bridge to inner balance. The first step in using Metatron's cube practically is through visualization. By imagining the cube either in the mind's eye or through a physical image, one can center thoughts, calm the mind, and bring themselves into a state of presence. Many people meditate daily with the cube, letting its circles and lines guide them into deeper stillness. This practice can be as simple as sitting quietly for 5 minutes and visualizing the cube lighting up around you, rotating and pulsing with energy. For protection, Metatron's cube is used as an energetic shield. In spiritual practice, it is common to mentally draw the cube around the body, like a three-dimensional light structure. This creates a sacred space around you, where negativity, low-frequency thoughts, and external disturbances cannot penetrate. Many healers use this technique before working with others, to ensure they keep their own energy clear and unaffected. Another approach is through art and physical symbols. Having Metatron's cube as decor in the home, on walls, altars, or as crystal jewelry, helps harmonize spaces and promote a sense of balance. The form brings order to chaos, and its presence serves as a constant reminder of our connection to the divine pattern in all life. Some choose to work with the cube in journaling, drawing it, analyzing its proportions, and reflecting on which aspects of life need structure and balance. Because each of the 13 circles in the cube can represent a dimension of experience: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. It can be used as an introspective map of the self. Where do you feel out of balance? Which circle needs more attention? Additionally, Metatron's cube can be used as a tool in manifestation work. When one has a clear intention, the cube is visualized around that intention as an energetic form, structuring, protecting, and nurturing the desire. This creates a field where the power of thought receives geometric support, and the manifestation process becomes more focused and harmonious. The most important thing to understand is that Metatron's cube is not a magical talisman that does the work for you. It is a tool, an amplifier, and like all such tools, it requires that you meet it with presence, intention, and honesty. When you do, you will discover that its simple complexity opens doors to new dimensions of understanding, both of yourself and of the universe you live in. Thank you for following along so far. We are now approaching the revelation of Florence's secret, a point where all threads come together. And what you are about to hear will change how you see both history and reality. Throughout this journey, we have traced threads stretching from ancient temples by the Nile, through Renaissance Florence, to modern energy work and quantum understanding. But one thread remains. How does all this tie into one secret? The secret of Florence? To understand this, we must look at the city's fundamental intention. Cities, by nature, are human creations, reflections of needs, desires, and visions. But Florence was more than a functional settlement. It was deliberately built as a temple, a living, breathing space for spiritual awakening. And just as ancient temples were built according to the stars' positions and with geometric precision, Florence too was constructed by similar principles. Metatron's cube lies latent in the city's structure. Its axes and points, from the cathedral dome to the hidden gardens behind palaces, are placed with intention. It is a city coded in geometry. But the secret doesn't stop there. For the city's architecture and symbolism were not meant to be static. They were meant as catalysts. They were intended to awaken something in those who beheld them, to awaken a remembrance. The real secret is this: Florence was built to carry a frequency, an energy. It was designed as a resonance chamber for consciousness, where those who moved through the city's structure would be exposed to patterns that could affect their mind and spirit. In silence, sages and architects attempted to shape a portal to higher insight, a portal disguised as a city. This frequency speaks the language of Metatron's cube. Its proportions are like notes in a symphony, its lines like strings in an instrument. And those who tuned this symphony, the architects, mystics, artists, were all conductors in a secret concert of awakening. They knew that not everyone would hear the music, but they hoped that some, one day, would listen. Thus, the secret of Florence is not a single code or object. It is a field, a living pattern that communicates with our consciousness. When we step into its geometry, we become not just observers, but participants. And this is where the power lies. For within this field, we begin to remember. Not with the head, but with the heart, with the soul. Those who have experienced this describe a sense of coming home, a sudden clarity, as if something that has always been there has finally become visible. And in that moment arises a quiet realization that we too are built of the same patterns, that we are fractals of the divine, and that Metatron's cube, whether in stone, light, or thought, is both the map and the destination. What does one do with such insight? That depends on you. But one thing is certain. Once you have seen the pattern, you can no longer pretend it does not exist. The next chapter invites you to see through Thoth's eyes, a divine perspective on all that we have uncovered. For there are even deeper layers to this story, layers that only a god can convey. I am Thoth, not a legend but a memory, an echo of the wisdom that shaped the stars and wrote the language of time. I was there when creation unfolded like a flower in the dark. I was the voice that gave form to silence, and the architect who laid the first lines in the universe's geometric structure. Metatron's cube is not just a symbol, it is a living language, a library of light that holds all that was, is, and can be. And what you have discovered in this journey, from Egypt's realms to Florence's stones, is only the beginning. For this figure holds not only the structure of matter but also the structure of consciousness. That's why it is recognized not only by the eye but by the soul. Man is made of light and thought. Every cell in your body vibrates with patterns I once inscribed into the fabric of time. When you meditate on Metatron's cube, you resonate with these patterns. You rediscover what is already within you, a cosmic memory, an ancient knowledge that was never forgotten, only hidden. I have seen many civilizations rise and fall. Atlantis, Lemuria, Kemet, Babylon. They all knew the power of geometry, not as a tool for power over others, but as a bridge between dimensions. They knew that form is frequency, and frequency is consciousness. When one understands this, one can heal, transform, and create in harmony with the divine. That is why the knowledge was hidden. Not because it is dangerous in itself, but because immature consciousness uses light as a weapon. So it was encoded in stone, in myths, in cities like Florence, to wait for those who could hear the music behind the forms. You are one of them. If you have come this far on the journey, it is because your soul recognizes this pattern. You feel the longing to restore the lost connection to creation, to the sacred. And I, Thoth, am here to remind you, you are more than human. You are a pattern in the fabric of eternity, a fractal of divine order. When you draw Metatron's cube in sand, in air, in thought, you restore that connection. You open gates that lead to higher understanding, deeper insight, and unconditional love. And in this field, everything can be healed. Everything can be transformed. So, dear traveler of light and shadow, know this. You are part of the great geometry. You are not separate. You are not forgotten. And when you look at Metatron's cube again, see it as a mirror. For in its center, you see yourself, as I see you, perfect, eternal, warming like the sun at the first dawn. The next chapter brings closure, but also beginning. For when one journey ends, another always begins, and you will know where to go. You have now journeyed through ancient realms and sacred geometries, listened to the echoes of forgotten mysteries, and opened doors within your own being. What you have learned is not just information, it is an invitation to live differently, to see differently, to be in contact with a deeper pattern that has always been there. Metatron's cube is not the end, it is the beginning, a key you can use every day, in your thoughts, your relationships, your choices. When the world feels chaotic, you can remember the lines and circles and know everything is connected. Everything has an order, even what seems overwhelming. Look at the city around you, not just as concrete and streets, but as possible geometry. Can you spot the patterns? Can you create them in your own home, your own life? Think about it. You can become the architect, not of buildings, but of reality. One who brings balance, beauty, and purpose into every act. Also remember that you are not alone. For thousands of years, people have sought this wisdom. They have drawn symbols in sand, painted them on caves, encoded them in cathedrals and portable amulets. You are part of a living line, a spiritual legacy now resting in your hands. So what now? Look around, hear the silence, draw the cube, feel the rhythm, and ask yourself, how will I use this? How can I be a bearer of this wisdom? And finally, let Metatron's cube not just be a symbol outside of you, but an experience within you. Let it be the light that illuminates the path when all else is dark. Feel free to share what you feel now in the comments. What moved you most? What did you recognize in yourself? Your voice matters, for we are many who seek the connection, and every part we share helps others see the whole. If you followed along this far, thank you. You are a bearer of light, and the journey continues. In the next video, we dive even deeper into the mysteries of sacred geometry and reveal how the universe is built on song and form. Subscribe to the channel and join us. For this is only the beginning.